Hello, everyone, and thank you to those who have joined so far. We're going to give our registered participants just another moment to join the webinar, and then we will get started. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for Creatio's webinar. Today, we will be discussing retail banking best practices, leveraging artificial intelligence to generate next best offer recommendations based on real-time data. My name is Creatio, and I look forward to being joined by one of my colleagues from Creatio as we walk through the discussion today and share a live demonstration. We hope to make this a very interactive discussion, so we'll welcome you to post all of your questions in the Q&A section throughout the webinar. And then following the discussion today, we will provide all registered participants with a recording of the webinar, and we will answer any unanswered questions offline today. As mentioned, my name is Creatio, and I'm a Marketing Communications Manager at Creatio. I'm joined by my colleague, Nandish Manapati, our experienced Enterprise Solutions Manager, who will lead the discussion and the live demonstration today. So Nandish, I'd like to give you just a quick moment to say hello to our audience.
Hey, good morning, everyone. This is Nandish Manapati, Enterprise Solution Manager here at Creatio. Very excited to be in today's webinar.
Great, thank you so much, Nandish. Very happy to have you on today and look forward to your demonstration. So to walk you through our agenda for this afternoon, we'll first be having our speaker and company introduction. I'll tell you a bit about Creatio and our product offering. Next, we will review the artificial intelligence trends and opportunities. Then we'll talk about AI-powered banking. Then we'll talk about intelligent low-code platforms. And we'll provide a hands-on demo of Creatio's low-code offering led by Nandish. Then we'll follow up with that Q&A section. And again, we hope to make this a very interactive discussion today. We welcome you to post any and all of your questions in the chat section, and we hope to get to all of these questions at the end of the discussion. And Nandish, I'd like to hand off to you again.
Yeah, like I said, Corey, very excited to be in this today's webinar. As is evident from the slide, I have about 20 years of work experience, primarily using CRM in variety of means, whether that comes from the contact center side or from marketing or from the sales as well. So I'm very excited to be talking about artificial intelligence, machine learning as it pertains to the Creatio and its capabilities, and how we can use it in a diverse way of looking at it from a customer perspective, understanding the leads perspective, understanding forecasting, all of that today. So it'll be a pretty strong demonstration, including very diverse set of topics, but very excited talking about that. Back to you, Corey.
Great, thank you, Nandish. And just to talk a bit about Creatio, while this may be a reminder for many of you who have joined previous webinars, we'd like to just highlight to each of you that Creatio is a global organization. We have 5 offices around the globe with over 650 employees. We have a robust and continuously growing channel network of over 700 partners, consistent of consultants and system integrators, and we operate in 110 countries worldwide. We're also highly recognized by key industry analysts, such as analysts from Gartner and Forrester, and I look forward to touching on that in a bit more detail in the next few slides. We are recognized in 5 Gartner Magic Quadrants, 2 of which speak to our low-code and process automation capabilities, and 3 of which speak to our CRM and Salesforce automation capabilities. You can see here that we are named a leader in the 2020 Magic Quadrants for Salesforce automation and CRM lead management, and we continue to grow this recognition with Gartner that we're very proud of. Similarly, we are mentioned in 7 Forrester waves. This is really a tremendous accomplishment, as it's fantastic to be included in 1 Forrester wave, but we are a strong performer in these waves, 2 of which speak to our low-code and process automation capabilities, and 5 of which speak to our CRM and Salesforce automation capabilities. So again, we look forward to growing our user and analyst recognition in the next calendar year and during the remainder of 2020. So Nandish, I'd like to hand over to you to talk about AI trends.
Yeah, thanks, Corey. And typically, that's typically the workflow that we have with any webinar is that we want to start off with some of the trends in any particular topic, then do a little bit of deep dive into each of those trends, then break it up into the industry vertical, banking in this case, and then we talk about how Creatio is in a prime position to help our customers in that particular industry vertical. So before we go any further, let me first start off by talking about the four big trends that we are seeing from the AI machine learning perspective. Now, all of this is all absolutely backed up by market research data. In this particular situation, Forbes magazine recently worked with a marketing firm to understand if you have to take AI, because it's such a broad topic, right? It's very hard to identify what those areas are, but what they did was a pretty good job of breaking down into four different areas. And for our webinar today, we're going to focus on the top left-hand corner because we focus primarily on the B2B side. So that would be AI enhanced organization, but it's actually equally important to understand what are the three other areas. So before we get into the AI enhanced organization, let's spend some time understanding autonomous, human experience, and the knowledge perspective. So when I talk about when you hear the term autonomous, it immediately that comes into your mind is autonomous vehicle, right? That is true. That is definitely machine learning. That is artificial intelligence. It's constantly learning. It is getting better. There's a constant feedback loop of knowledge coming back into the system and understanding and making judgment calls on the fly on a real-time basis. But that is just not it at all, right? So AI can also mean much more things than that. For example, Uber or Lyft or Ola, whatever those ride-hailing services, they are also heavily invested into the AI machine learning, right? So at the end of a ride, for example, they ask you for a rating of how that driver performed. And that rating that you provide is also asked by the driver side. So the driver is also ranking the passenger at the same time. So everybody is getting stacked ranked on a scale of 1 to 5, depending upon which solution that you go with. So when next time you come in, they actually look for the drivers who have at least 4 or 4.3 or whatever that is higher than that, and passengers who are also rated the same way, so that there is a best match between them. So there is a lot of AI that is going on even from the autonomous side. The other thing that I'm hearing primarily from the financial institutions these days is that they're closing a lot of branches, right? So I live in Groton, Massachusetts. We actually only have 2 branches in here. One is Bank of America, another is Citizens Bank. Surprisingly, Bank of America actually closed their branch, but they actually invested a lot in their ATM technology. So with ATM, I can pretty much do everything that I wanted to do, even including the withdrawal rate that has gone up. But what it comes down to is everything comes down to an ATM machine. If ATM breaks down, that branch is pretty much done. So in order to take care of that, they're investing heavily into the IoT devices. As a matter of fact, from my own experience, I worked with a couple of ATM vendors that has been outsourced by these major banks that continuously monitor the efficiency of these ATM machines and immediately send out a signal to a CRM applications like Creatio to initiate a service request, right? And that is all done through autonomous way. The second option is pervasive knowledge, right? Knowledge was actually very limited, I would say, in 1980s, even early 90s. But with the advent of Google and internet, smartphones that everybody has, knowledge is at your fingertips. So with that amount of information of knowledge that we have, you can start to do some really great things and somewhat creepy things at the same time. Great things could be that, for example, if you're in the vicinity of a Best Buy, and if you are already registered on their website and they have your phone number, as you come closer to a particular radius, maybe they might push out a notification that, hey, listen, we have some offers on TV based upon their past shopping history or shopping cart history, right? And that, while that is good in terms of how much information is available, sometimes it gets to a little bit of the creepy side as well. So that comes on to the understanding the customer and making sure that you're providing them information, not only when they're somewhere else, but also in a particular vicinity of the retail location that that organization is located. Now, also, a lot of people are using Google Assistants, Alexa, but in the background, it is all connecting to knowledge, and somebody is listening to that and making information and continue to make it better. So that is also AI as it means to it. And thirdly is a human experience. I believe it was our CEO, Catherine, who had talked about a painting that was done that looked very realistic. And turns out it was actually built by AI. And that was a highly valued painting that sold for a lot of money. So basically, when we talk about human experience, we're typically talking about communications. We're talking about music, new kinds of music sounds, new kind of music trends coming in, arts. That is basically what we mean by human experience. Now, all of that is great, but what we are more focused on today for a particular webinar in this today's webinar is focused on enhancing AI in the organizations. But before we get there, let's try to understand, is that truly a valid statement, right? And for that, we lean on Gartner. So Gartner is one of those leading market research firms, and we work a lot with Gartner as well in terms of putting our products in the Magic Quadrant. What they are saying is that as of about 4 or 5 years from now on, about 75% of the organizations are pivoting from just looking at it to actually beginning to operationalizing AI. And that is a fact, because increasingly, as I talk to my customers, and I was speaking to somebody from a membership for a doctor's organization yesterday, we were talking to a banking wealth management firm a couple of days ago, and we're also in the process of doing a POC for a financial advisory firm. All of them are asking about AI. AI is becoming increasingly important, and not only from saying next best offers or next best actions. Primarily, they're looking at from monitoring how the business processes are performing and continuing to make sure that the data is getting more and more, collect more and more real and correct data so that the predictions becomes much more useful, and therefore their employees can then make more personalized offers to the customers on a real-time basis. That is actually happening, and it's backed up by real-time data. So now, ultimately, CEO has to continue to invest money into these kinds of technologies. And for them to do so, there are two things that they look at. CEOs get compensated on share price, and share price is dictated on one thing, and that is profitability. And there's only two ways to increase profitability in any organization, whether that's in the United States or Europe or Asia. And that is by increasing the revenue or by decreasing the cost. Now, most of the times, even though sales tends to be more of a profit center, marketing, service, and product development tends to be more of a cost center, right? So from those particular segments, you are more focused on decreasing the cost, and whereas from the sales side, you're trying to increasing the revenue share as well. And when you look into the McKinsey reports, you will see that there is based upon the feedback that they've got from their respondents, there is an overwhelming reason that organizations that are looking at investing AI in addition to the technologies that they have are realizing at least significant amount of decrease in cost and also increase in revenue. Moving on to the next slide. And I'm not going to read off from the slide as well. Okay. Let's go back just a second. Okay. Sorry about jumping to the next slide. As it pertains to it, you can see that 44% of the executives are reporting cost savings, and that is a fact. And cost savings is the immediate ones through operational efficiency is basically what they're looking at. Let's move on to the next slide very quick and understand what are the initiatives that the banking industry is looking at, right? So I would say that from my experience, and I tend to agree with what PwC has come up with, I am seeing that whenever I talk to my prospects, the number one and number two factors that they ask for is operational efficiency. They're also looking at cost savings. And finally, they're also looking at personalizations and then audit, legal, compliance, anti-money laundering. Those are all compliance laws that are part of it in terms of making sure that there's less and less human errors as it pertains to AI. Recently, there was a lot of talk about using OCR technology, the optical character recognition, especially in the insurance segment. And we are working with a bunch of partners to enable that in Creatio. So the idea here is that whenever a customer sends out a 3-page, 5-page PDF file with information, whether they're adding a beneficiary to a policy, they're removing somebody, they're changing beneficiary, they're changing addresses, these insurance companies, and even banking for that matter, tend to rely a lot on those PDF forms. And then somebody in the background has to take all of that information and then manually input it into their CRM system. And the idea of using AI in addition to the OCR technology is to scan through those PDF files, understand what kind of form is being sent out, and very intelligently create a case and efficiently collect that data and put that into the right fields so that we are relying less on human nature, humans, and therefore the risk of reducing the errors is significantly lowered. At the same time, operationally, everything is more efficient. So that is basically what my experience has been, and that has been mentioned by backed up by the PwC research. So before we go further, I think there's a poll right now, Corey.
Yes, thank you so much, Nandish. Thanks for leading such a great beginning of our discussion here. So the question that we'd like to ask the audience is, what goals would you like to achieve by leveraging AI tools in your organization? We have some options here that we'd like for you to select. And while we give you just a moment, I'd like to take one of the questions from the audience. So Nandish, what departments or job functions can mainly benefit from AI? I know you touched on this a little bit, but maybe we can elaborate here.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, AI is such a broad topic, right? So my experience primarily from the banking side has been more on marketing department, where they do a lot of personalizations of offers. And then as and when the customer comes in, whatever channel that may be, whether that be chat or chatbot or emails or phone calls, whatever that may be, then this customer service agent or the sales agent has the best recommendations that is more personalized to that particular customer. So I would say that marketing followed by sales, and then eventually into the service side and identifying who is the best rep to understand, to handle that case, who is based upon particular qualification. Those are the three areas that is best for served.
Great, thank you so much, Nandish. Now let's move forward with our discussion and see the results. I think we got a glimpse, but yeah, so it looks like all of the above generally, and then tied for efficiency boost and personalization of the offering and services. So we'll be talking about these functionalities a bit more in detail when we do the live demonstration today. Anything to add, Nandish?
That is correct. So that's actually pretty good, because you know, everybody wants everything, but obviously you want to start off with something one at a time. So Corey, can we move on to the slide, please? The next slide.
Yes, just one moment. Great. So thank you so much, Nandish, for answering the question from the audience today. Again, we want to talk a bit more about Creatio here in our offering. And as mentioned in the beginning of our webinar today, Nandish spoke specifically about our Creatio's low-code capabilities and leveraging AI tools. And we'd like to take this time to emphasize that our vision is that we believe that we create a world where anyone can automate business ideas within minutes. So users with little to no coding experience can automate processes and simplify daily tasks and leverage those artificial intelligence tools that we're speaking about. And we accomplish that vision for organizations that we mentioned earlier through our core differentiators, otherwise known to or referred to as our Creatio superpowers. And those superpowers are our unified CRM to understand your customers, our BPM engine to streamline customer-centric processes, and our low-code platform, a flexible platform that allow everyone to be a developer. And again, we offer an intelligent low-code platform for process automation and CRM. Creatio is truly an industry-agnostic, flexible solution usable for a myriad of different business goals and tasks and needs. And we'll walk through many more of the platform capabilities today, particularly when Nandi shares that live demo in a bit. So here's a review of our product architecture. Creatio's low-code studio offering is the built-in foundation for the all-encompassing CRM suite of sales, service, and marketing. And this is really what drives and differentiates our platform, giving our users the ability to create customized applications for process management and the unified CRM suite. So our low-code studio tool enables users to build full-fledged applications for sales, service, and marketing functions. And additionally, you'll see here that Creatio's marketplace on the right is an online forum where our large community of partners share over 600 add-ons, connectors, and templates that are used by Creatio customers for specific business needs and specific use cases. These are really the best of breed out-of-the-box functionalities, and this is kind of a, just a good overview of the Creatio stack as we've referred to it here. And Nandish, I'd like to just hand off to you quickly.
Thanks, Corinne. So thanks for that foundational piece. So we're going to take it to the next level. I'm pretty sure quite a few of you might have already seen this, but this is our vision of how Creatio, through their low-code technology, is enabling business processes optimization through various departments, right? So from a CRM perspective, obviously we break it up to sales, service, and marketing. And from the front office, whether that be customer onboarding or credit card opening, wealth management, or from the back office, from verification, underwriting of the loan process, each of it, when you start unpacking it, is basically a business process, right? There is a defined process, steps on how to take a customer from application, verification, underwriting, all the way through it. And in the middle, we then further break it down into what happens from the customer perspective. Starts off with a strong customer 360 view, and then break it up into individual applications, whether that be anti-money laundering, GDPR, Qs and SLAs, application underwriting, but it also impacts the employee side as well, right? Because as and when AI comes in, employees need to reskill, upskill themselves. So how do you make sure that you're hiring the best candidate? How are you making sure that knowledge is being continuously supplied to the employees to make sure that they are offering the best experience to their customers? And all of that on the right-hand side is enabled and monitored through analytics and dashboards, so that you can continue to monitor the efficiency gains. And if efficiency is not being realized, you go back and make modifications to the business process in the middle using low-code technology. All right, so with that, let's jump on to a hands-on demonstration. So the way and Corey, if you can, let me show my screen, that's great.
Sure, I can see your screen.
Awesome, thank you so much. And for the next 15-20 minutes, I'm going to walk you through the different elements of AI and machine learning, in particular as it pertains to Creatio. So, like I said, AI and ML can be wide variety, right? And it typically should impact not just one area, but also marketing, sales, and service. So, and that's what we're going to do today in today's demonstration. So first things first is focused on the customers itself, right? So from a customer perspective, when you start looking at it from a true customer 360, and I emphasized that in the previous slide, is that you need to start understanding how is the customer reacting to your brand, right? And that reaction could come from a variety of means, and that could come in from how they are responding to your marketing offers. Have they come recently on your website visits? Have they come on, logged a service ticket? Are they participating in any events that you're doing? So there are many, many ways in which you can start measuring customer sentiments, right? So for people who are fairly newer to Creatio, Creatio is a full-blown CRM, by the way, that can do marketing, sales, and service. And if it pertains to the financial industry, financial banking, then we can branch it off into say that what experience would it look like if they walked into a local branch, and from a loan underwriting perspective and all of that. So here what you're seeing, by the way, is the dashboard of everything related to the customer called Donald Tan, right? So here is the sentiment score of how Donald is responding to your brand. What is the last sentiment score that he has provided, and how does it compare to the churn rate? So what that means is, end of the year, is the customer likely to move away and go with another competitor? That is an important number that we need to start monitoring that. As a matter of fact, last week we were talking to actually it was yesterday, we were talking to a membership driven medical community firm in Canada, and what they get their revenue from membership, and they want to understand the churn rate, and we were able to predict that using machine learning. So what I'm going to show today, right now in this demonstration, is specifically focused on the tweets, right? Because that is a little interesting way of saying there are many ways in which you can start measuring the sentiment. So for example, if Donald Tan, for example, goes to Twitter and starts putting any information like that, and through Hootsuite integrations or whatever that may be, we'll be able to capture that tweet, whether that be a positive tweet or a negative tweet, and then come back and put that in here. So for example, I can say, thanks so much for the awesome support. Something something that is positive and not necessarily negative, so I'm not going to check that, and then put whatever you want, and maybe we can put some sentiment score as it's put by Hootsuite, or UScan or whatever platform that you use to measure that sentiment. Basically what is happening is, once that tweet is captured, in the background we will quickly run through a machine learning process, and you can see that the sentiment actually has gone up to 42 right now. So it's basically on the aggregate, it is beginning to capture that overall sentiment analysis, and then do a very quick machine learning algorithm in the background to start measuring what is the sentiment. And again, this is all time based upon what is that once a year, once a quarter, once a month, whatever that may be, this number is automatically captured. Now, how are we actually measuring that? That is probably the more important question. And for that, what we do is we use the machine learning algorithm, and I'll show that to you in just a second when it opens up. And that is available in our studio platform. The one cool thing that I want to mention is that machine learning model in Creatio is unlimited. So you're not restricted to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever it is. You can see there's a lot of predictions that we're doing overall. And the way to do that is very simple. Currently, we support 4 different kinds of predictions in Creatio. The first one being the lookup prediction. Lookup prediction simply means that this is a predefined value. So a good example of that would be if a particular support case comes in to the bank, who is the best agent who should be answering that question, right? And we use that very successfully in a very in a well-known consulting firm based out of Canada, where when internal support comes in, they want the best agent to answer that question. The second kind of predictions that we do is numeric predictions. As the name goes, it is predicting some number, and that number could be an opportunity amount, it could be an forecasting amount, it can be any kind of numeric predictions. The third one is predictive scoring. This is primarily used in the marketing side, and I'll show that to you later on, is where when a new lead comes in, based upon historical data, you can say what is a likelihood of saying that that lead is going to convert into a real opportunity, so that your sales reps are not chasing after every lead, but are actually being very strategic and chasing only strong leads that will eventually convert into a real opportunity. And finally is a recommendation. This is basically where we can recommend next best actions or next best offers from the marketing side. So that's basically how it is done. So right now for the context sentiment analysis, basically the model looks like this, right? So we're simply using the tweets as the object, and then we are saying that only the considered as no should be considered within this particular context. and then depending upon what other records should be used for training sets and any other columns that are part of it, you can start adding more. So these are all additional fields that can be added as part of it, but you can also see that from a linked object side, I can now extend that object to a contact and then select anything, any other parameter that is attached to the contact as well. So one of the cool things about Creatio is the ability to have a true customer 360, which means that we can start branching it off into other areas of that are connected to that tweet itself. So this is how we are actually using machine learning to make a predictions on the sentiment analysis itself. Now, the same process also has been used from the churn prediction perspective. I talked about the churn. We have done the same thing from the machine learning. Instead of using tweet, now we are using contact as the object, and now saying that any transaction post April 1st, 2020 are the only ones that have been considered, and these are all the predicted values that we are going to go after. Now, based upon number of transactions in the current quarter, and you can see that these are all not hard coded, which means that in the next quarter it is going to be whatever that Q4 is going to be. Then it's going to look for Q3. Then it's going to look for number of deposit transactions. Just based upon what is happening, we are now going to say that what is the prediction rate in which the customer is going to consider going to a competitor, right? And these are real factors. So for example, we are saying that if the customer has not done any deposit in the past 6 months, whatever it is since April 1st of this year, they have not done any transactions on ATMs or point of sales or deposit transactions, guess what? They are probably doing business somewhere else, right? And it's critical that that information be supplied to the sales rep, so that based upon that number, you can then take corrective actions by doing by including them into your marketing segments or doing some sort of a follow-up mechanisms to do a continuous touch points with them. So those are all different ways in which you can do that. In addition to that, there is also customer profitability that is part of it, and you can do that through the profitability predictions. This is another business process that is being launched as part of the machine learning itself. But all of that comes in as part of different prediction models, whether that comes in as churn predictions, whether that comes in as a lead predictions or as a case predictions, and so on and so forth, right? So the next stuff that we're going to look at is the lead scoring. The lead scoring is based upon whenever a new lead comes in. So this is mostly focused on the marketing side. So we're saying that we are only going to consider leads that have successfully been transferred into an opportunity, or that opportunity has been closed. Therefore, the lead stage is now satisfied. In addition to that, these are all the various parameters in which we are going to make our predictions, and you can add more if you want. Like I said earlier, additional parameters pertaining to leads will show up that you can start adding them. So if you're not getting good predictions, make sure that you add additional columns. Or if you want to consider connected things, let's say, for example, maybe you want to connect from a lead into a activity or into an account, whatever that may be, or into a contact, you can do so, right? So now you can go after additional details within the contact itself. So you can get very, very granular. But what is the advantage of doing all of this is that you now start when the lead scoring goes through, we will then tell you how are we making these predictions, right? So which factors are impacting those predictions the most? Is it the lead age days? Is it the source? Is it contact role? So based upon all of the parameters that you have used, you can now say that the last 4 parameters have basically next to no impact on the machine learning itself. So this is not only making you understand which parameters should you pay attention to, and this is constantly getting retrained on a particular set as well. So this is constantly evolving and a constantly learning model. Now, how does that experience look like? The experience from a user perspective looks very straightforward. So if I go into the lead section and then create a new lead that I'm interested in, and let's say I select term loan as the option, and I think it's Donald Pan, and the account is of business, and create a new lead. And this new lead can not only have to come from manually, It can also come in from your landing page, from a phone call, whatever that may be. Immediately, we will tell you based upon historical data, what is the likelihood of this lead actually going into a fully fledged opportunity. Right now, it's on a scale of one star out of 3, which means that it is pretty low probability. But then as you get more and more data, obviously, maybe the prediction rate might get better. But that's something to pay attention to as you start you leveraging lead scoring in terms of machine learning management. Now, the same thing can also be done. Now, this what we looked at it from the marketing side, but you can also do the same thing from the sales side, from a contact center side. Sorry, from the contact center side, you can actually go into case predictions, right? So maybe I'm a member of what do you call that, Bank of America, for example, right? So maybe I have a question about a problem with online banking. So I'll create a new case, and this new case again can come omni-channel, whatever that may be. If I select the subject line and I put some issues connecting, right? And say this is actually connected to $10. And you can see that everything else is automatically populated, and that is service case 270. So in the background, as a new case is being created, and if you open that up, a couple of things will happen. Number one, you will see that the mood shows up, and now you can see that we are actually stack ranking based upon that particular subject line and particular user. We are telling you what is the mood of the customer based upon our previous feedback. And also, if you go into the case information, what is the right channel in which the customer has previously interacted with? Maybe they want to call, they want to be reached out on the business phone. So rather than send out an email, in this particular situation, I would actually reach out through the web phone, right? So that is all many ways in which you can start making predictions as well. And now we're also automatically ranking them to say that based upon historical data, the priority queue in which I'm going to put this case is medium. It's not really a high priority just based upon historical data. So those are all many ways in which you can make not one predictions, not just two predictions, but multiple predictions on the priority list side, understanding the mood of the customer, and also understanding the channel in which you want to reach out to the customer. Very different ways in which machine learning can be used in Creatio. And finally, from the sales side, you can also do something very similar. So from an opportunity perspective, if you go into any sales funnel, right? So typically, the sales rep may have their own ways of saying what they expect that opportunity amount to be. So maybe currently it is at $1,200. And the budget the customer has outlined is about 1,000. Now, we can leverage machine learning to start making predictions based upon those two numbers, right? So, for example, it's currently predicting about 1,258. So, if I go ahead and make this as say 900 and make this into say 850, for example, and then save it. Now, internally, what is happening is that with new information, it is now running through and now saying that what was previously 12 something has now dropped to 804. So using the later information of the opportunity amount and the budget, I have now created a new predicted amount based upon 804. Now using that value, the sales manager can now go in and say that, you know what, I am going to, since the opportunity amount dropped, I am going to drop my forecast to 850 as well. So that is, so I'm taking advantage of multiple two different numbers and then make my own judgment call on that, right? So where can you extend this? This is very helpful when it comes to forecasting perspective, right? So once you have something that Creatio is predicting it, you can then go into the forecasting side itself, and now you can start saying that from the third quarter perspective, as a sales rep, I am now pulling information directly from that particular opportunity object, whatever the sales rep has put in. I get to see what that value is. Now, what did Creatio predict using the predictions from machine learning, and what did the manager predict for that particular opportunity? Now, keep in mind is that the manager field is actually hidden, so the sales rep has no clue that the manager is making some judgment call. But then I can also use some weighted analysis to say that if I'm the VP of sales or VP of that department, I can give due weightage to different entities. So the sales reps number, I'm going to give a weightage of 2. For the manager, I'm going to give a higher weightage. Ditto with the predicted amount from Creatio, a higher weightage, and then take a composite number based upon that and say, what is that number look like? And then I can go ahead and be a little bit more conservative than that and say that even though the weighted prediction is about $1,800, I'm going to assign 1776 when I report this my number to the CEO. So this is many ways in which you can use machine learning in Creatio to make predictions pretty much about any object in Creatio. So in summary, what I have tried to show you, again, we haven't done a deep dive analysis on this, is to show you that you can make predictions about a specific contact, understanding their sentiment analysis based on social media channels. We can understand based upon their historical perspective, transactions, what is their churn rate. Then we jump directly into the marketing side and understood how you can make predictions based upon lead and the conversions. We also looked at it from a contact center side to say that when a cases comes in, what is the likelihood of the cases and what's the right channel to reach out to them. And finally, from a sales side, we looked at it, make a predictions from machine learning and use that information to do some forecasting analysis to our management. So I hope this was a high-level overview, and hope this was give you a bit broader understanding about what you can potentially do with machine learning. So with that, I'm going to end the demo, Corey.
Excellent. Let me just close out here.
Are there any questions from
Yes, we do have questions. Thank you so much for that live demonstration, Nandish. And our first question is, how can AI help employees do their work more effectively in this remote mode?
Oh, that is, I think probably the last part that I showed you in terms of predictability is spot on, right? So typically when we talk about employee efficiency, we are really talking about automating business processes. And what we mean by that is using, say, OCR technology to do some data migrations requiring less and less manual input. That's number one. Number two is going after and predicting the right lead, for example, or predicting the amount of forecasting, or even automating certain business processes. So what I mean by that is if somebody is working on the underwriting processes, they as soon as they finish up the task, rather than send out an email manually, that email will be sent out automatically through Creatio to make things less and less manual work. So those are many ways in which you can make things more efficient.
Great, thank you, Nandish. And our next question is, how long does it take to implement AI in an organization or a department?
Actually, not that fast. Actually, not that slow. Rather, sorry. I guess it's Wednesday morning. So for that matter, for that forecast that I showed you with the opportunity, the minimum number of records that Creatio needs to make any predictions is 100. So that opportunity record that I showed you towards the end, I was able to build that within about 10 minutes or so. In terms of how that prediction was built out, and you can see that the dialog that I showed you earlier is you select the object that you want to do and pick the columns that should be used to make initial predictions, right? And then as long as you have minimum of 100 such objects, then Creatio will make that predictions right away. Now keep in mind is that it is always a crawl, walk, run approach. So obviously the predictions gets improved with more and more data sets. So it's a matter of more data coming in to make better predictions than setting it up. Setting it up is fairly straightforward, and we leverage low-code technology to do so.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Nandish. Our next question is, can I build forecasting models myself, or do I need help from the IT department?
That is a great question. So forecasting model is a part and parcel of Creatio. So you don't need IT department. The forecasting that I showed you towards the end of the demo was actually built by myself. There is no need to do there is no need to involve IT department at all. And as a matter of fact, it is that's what we recommend, is that we give more and more power to the business users.
Great. Thank you so much, Nandish. Our next question is, what are the advantages of using a low-code platform with AI capabilities that we've seen here?
Right.
I believe we can kind of touch on some of the things that we've seen in the demo.
Yeah, so it goes back to the demonstration, right? So in the opportunity record, when you saw, I had a manager field, I had the machine learning field. Those were done using low-code technology, right? So all I did was drag and drop functionality using the section wizard, created 2 new fields, went into the object permissions using low-code technology, and I said that should be only visible to the manager and greater in the hierarchy. So typically, when we talk about AI capabilities, you're always trying to make some predictions, and that requires you to create new fields in any object. And we use low-code platforms such as Creatio to do those drag and drop, add new data points or data objects into that into that current object. So those things are done very, very rapidly. And I was, like I said, that opportunity record and forecasting, I was able to set it up in less than 30 minutes.
Great, thank you, Nandish. And you spoke a lot about low code and how low code solutions improve customer engagements and experience. Can you elaborate on this from a customer experience perspective and customer engagement perspective?
That is actually, that probably takes like 30 minutes to answer, because we do so many things with low code, and Creatio kind of embodies that that philosophy extremely well. So from a customer experience side, whether the customer comes in through the portal and initiates an address change, and that has to go through due diligence of coming in, collecting the necessary documentation, whether that be, let's say from an insurance company perspective, if you want to change a beneficiary, you need to tell who that person is, give their social security number. That has to go through due diligence internally of people who need to follow up, make sure that the information is correct. Send out an email and notify the original beneficiary that, hey, we received this request, this is the upgrade that we have done. If you're not the person, then please let us know. All of those business processes are done automatically using low code solutions, and it's very easy to configure that, right? I'm not saying that this could not have been done previously. The issue was that it required significant IT resources. What low code brings in as a benefit is that you don't need IT to do any of those changes, right? That is the basic value proposition of low-code technology. Nobody understands business better than contact center supervisors. Nobody understands businesses like marketing managers. Nobody understands better than VP of sales. If you give power to them and let them through their business analysts build in processes that is more suitable, more adaptable, and can be done very rapidly using low-code technology, the employees get the information that they want rapidly. They know exactly what to do next, and they will then be able to transfer that efficiency gains immediately to their customers.
Great, thank you so much, Nandish. Our last question that we have here is, what skills does a person need to have in order to use low-code tools, and is it easy to learn? After you give your response here, maybe it would be good to mention that Creatio currently has an 8-hour and 8-module course on Creatio's low-code platform, where you can learn how to use our low-code development platform again in just 8 hours. But if you want to elaborate on this, Nandish, that would be very helpful.
Sure. What skills does a person need to be? I would say that maybe a little logical. That person needs to be a little logical, because any application requires certain amount of logic building skills, so to speak, to understand what comes next, what happens following up, what if conditions are necessary. But having said that, anybody with next to no development skills will be able to build fairly decent applications using low code skills. I am not a developer, right? I am not a software developer. I have no interest on being a software developer. I don't mind building applications once in a while, but I don't want to do that for a living. That is not my skill set. and I'm able to learn this application very, very quickly. And as you mentioned, Corey, there's a lot of ecosystem of help to do so, right? We do that through our academy, we do that through our documentations, we do that through our marketplace, we do that through our community. So there's a strong ecosystem of people who can do that. Now, I do want to share a personal story in here. When I interviewed at Creatio, I was given 3 days, having no experience in Creatio, to come and do a demonstration. And I was able to do that fairly quickly. So if somebody like me who has no software development experience can pick up that product and then build a fairly decent business processes, add 1 or 2 simple custom objects and existing objects, I think anybody can do that. But again, I would again say that don't get very ambitious. It's always crawl, walk, run approach. Start with something very simple, and then as you get more and more confidence, start adding more and more details to it.
Great, thank you so much, Nandish. Thank you for such a helpful demonstration and discussion that you've led here today. This was really excellent for our users, and we want to remind everyone that we'll follow up with a recording of the webinar today for all of those registrants, but also want to remind you that this webinar is part of a larger initiative and series of digital events offered by the Creatio team. We have the events in several different formats, and look forward to educating you and providing you with more knowledge about how to use Creatio. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel to take a look at some of our previous events, and you can check out our upcoming events online on Creatio's website. So thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to having you on future events.
Thanks, Corinne. Thanks, everyone.